Hi, this is Stephanie Farron. I'm the Technology Facilitator at Butler High School. This is a Part 2 video on SchoolNet. In this video, we're looking at creating and assigning assessments through SchoolNet. So I'm going to assume that you know how to log into SchoolNet and also how to do basic navigation there. So I'm logged in as a teacher now, so you can see what it'll look like. Once on your homepage in SchoolNet, once you have students that start doing assessments, this little bar down here will change. You'll actually start to see data for each individual student and for each class on how they perform. So in this case, this is a C&E class, and they're doing a pre-test. Every one of my teachers did a pre-test and then a post-test at the end of the semester to see where their students are. Your principals will be able to see this data as well. So let's look at the very top, how to assign tests and create tests. All right, in the last video, I showed you how to take to search through the passages, items, and rubrics to find the ones you like, and that is a cumbersome thing. There's also a test, find a test. So these are tests that have been created either in your school or by the district that you can use. So I'm going to show you real quickly how to do that. You can leave it blank. You can put in I actually did this earlier, so it's also English Language Arts 9 through 12. Here are my tests. Okay, if I like them, all I have to do, this is the one I was working on as an example, is to come in here, click on the test. If I like it, I can make a copy of the test, assign it to my class, and then schedule it. Okay, the test is going to show up over here. One thing I need to warn you about, especially English Language Arts teachers, if you're going through the test bank, the questions and the reading passages do not automatically line up with each other when you go to print a test. So you have to be aware that the questions match the reading passage, just so you know. Once you make a copy of the test, and this action button is going to allow you to either delete the passage, add a new question, and change things. I have had teachers that have found that there was mistakes in the test and the incorrect answer was in there and stuff, so I do highly recommend that you preview your test. But that's where you can use a test that's already been made. All right, let's create our own test and see the options. The first one is creating an express test. An express test, and I'll just tell you what it is, you'll title it, again, the CMS standard is the class name, your name, and the year, I believe. I've been doing English Language Arts in this video, so I'll leave it at that. I like to leave my test basically about 9 through 12. I can leave it at 9 here. The next one we need to fill in is test category. A school-wide assessment will allow anyone in the school to see it. If I leave it at my classroom, only my students in my sections can take it. If it's a shared assessment like that C&E pre-test I showed you at the beginning, then multiple classes could take it. You also could do an answer key only. So if you just want to use the scan it function on the Toshiba copiers where you fill in a bubble sheet as an answer key and you scan them through just like a Scantron, you could do that. There's some other options here, but I'm going to leave it here and go on to selecting standards. To select the standards, you scroll down. On the left-hand side, you're going to see the number of questions that are in the test bank. On the right-hand side are the standards, which you can further expand. Okay, you can actually expand them all the way down to the individual standards for your course, okay, and the number of questions. It seems in the test bank that they focused on the core curriculum this summer. I do not know if they're going to be expanding that further, but depending on your subject will depend on how many questions you have. So for the purpose of this express test, I'm going to go ahead and leave all 2,000 questions available to me in the bank. Add to the test map at the bottom right. Okay. Now I'm going to enter how many questions I want on my test. I want 5, and build express test. What SchoolNet is going to do is it's going to take the 2,000 and some odd question bank and pull 5 random questions for me and build my test. Now this might be a great thing if you just want to quick see where the kids are. This might not be the best. Okay. Again, on the left hand side is my menu. Okay, and then on the right hand side I can actually preview the test. I could click preview online test to see it as well. I can look through the test. If I decide I do not like a question, like I said in actions, I can remove the question or view it individually. I can continue to add items to the test bank if I like. I can add additional instructions. If I like the entire test as is, at the top right, I click Make Public. This is one of the things I tell my teachers when I did this training. There's a lot of clicking involved in setting up a test. Once I make it public, it is ready to schedule. When I go to schedule the test, okay, it will warn me that once I do this, I will no longer be able to make changes to my test. So you need to make sure the answers are correct, the questions are the ones you want before you do this. All right, Now we're ready to schedule. Instead of saying ready to schedule, it says schedule. I will click schedule. Okay, I need to give the test a start date, an end date, and a score date. Again, the score date may or may not be important. Just it depends on whether or not you're going to do it online and have the program do it for you, or if you're going to scan it at your convenience. All right, it also allows students preventing from accessing the test. This is what I like about it. If you're going to do it online, it gives you an online passcode. You'll see this at the top of the test too when you go back and look at your test. So what the students will need to do is they'll need to log into PowerSchool, and in the bottom left-hand side menu, there'll be a button for SchoolNet. Now here's the important thing. Your students may or may not be logging in as an actual student into PowerSchool. A lot of students use a parent login that they have created. They have to be in a student login in order to see SchoolNet. So when you have your person print off the letters, the parent letters about gaining access to PowerSchool, at the very bottom of the page is a randomly generated student username and login for all your students. Normally I have my teachers who want to use SchoolNet print off a class roster of these that they keep in their classroom, so they have all the student usernames and logins before they go to the lab if they're going to do it online. Obviously, if you're going to use SchoolNet with a paper test or with a bubble sheet, you don't need to worry about the code or the student information. Now, on SchoolNet, there's a lot of things you can do if it's online. That's really nice. You can show students their answers and what they got wrong upon submission if you like. You can allow them to take a test on the homepage list. You can prevent them from accessing the test before or after a start and end date. You can make it a time test. You can track the student responses. You can scramble the question order and the answer choice order. My teachers really love this when they do these in the labs. Therefore, it totally prevents cheating because none of the kids will be on the same question and the same answers at the same time. Excuse me. Students will be allowed to pause the test, and only students assigned to that class can take the test. The last thing down here is very important. Right now, there's 56 courses at Butler High School in grade 9 for English Language Arts. I probably do not want to assign this test to all 56 of them, so I'm going to need to edit the assignment, find my sections, which is normally by numbers in PowerSchool, to assign it to, or to that one section only, not to the entire thing, and then click Save. At this point, I'm going to stop right here. All the tests are the same as this one as far as assigning them, but I want to show you the difference between an express test and creating a manual test. All right, so I'll leave my test here, and we're going to look at creating a manual test now. A manual test allows you the most flexibility because you're literally going to be adding your own questions into SchoolNet, okay, by hand. So again, I will use my sample here. I will use English Language Arts because I've been doing that here. And I think I did grade 9, so I'll just leave it there. You can put as many questions as you want. You can make them all multiple choice or not. I'm going to leave it off so you can see what that will let you do. Again, you can make this as a school assessment or you can make it as your classroom or a shared classroom. This is what I did when I did release test items for my school that were not already in SchoolNet. Okay? You can change the test focus, the preferred language of the document, answer key, and so on and so forth. Looks the same as the express test. Now we're going to generate the test. When I generate the test, it will ask me, here are my 10 questions across the top. Okay? Multiple choice, what type of question do I want? Open response, a gridded response, which is great for my math teachers. That's what they really wanted, to have them practice matching, initial inline response, drag and drop. So there's a lot of different choices I can choose. I'm just going to click multiple choice just so you can get a feel for these so you can see what you do. So first question, I'm on question 1. This is an English question, English response. Here we go. Question 1, it's multiple choice. Click to add content. All right, here's where I type in my question. What is the tree, the state tree of North Carolina? How's that? Haha. If I can type. Okay, there's a spell check up there. There's other things as well. You can copy and paste into here. All right, and then for each one of your answers, you'll write your choices. And so on and so forth. You're going to need to tell which one's the correct answer and how many points they get. You can also provide an explanation if you want to each question. Okay? And I can add that question and return to test detail. Now I'm going to leave it like this because I want to show you one thing that happens. Okay? So here's my one question. Here's the answer. It's going to show that it's not correct because I have not added the correct standard. Okay? So I'm going to need to go back in and edit this. And I'll show you how to put the standards in. Again, the standards are really simple because they're a drop-down menu. You just click Standard Lookup. And then just like we saw when I was doing an express test, you can come down to the topic and then come all the way down, find the standard, and then assign it to the test. Okay? Until you do that, this will show up not as green, but as red. Okay? So when I move on to number 2, see this one's still orange, and I'll have to see my warning. There's a warning here. It's still not liking my content. Oh, I think because I didn't put a content standard here, which I've jumped around. It's now social studies instead of English language arts. But you'd have to do that. You have to have the standard, and then you have to have the question, okay, for it to no longer be the warning. You will come back. You'll add all your questions when you're finished. You keep going, make public, schedule a test, and so on and so forth. Again, it's labor intensive, but say you have tests that you all use already. One person can just type in the test, and then making it public can make it public for all the users in your school then to use the same test and then manipulate the questions. So it's kind of nice. So that's that one. And then the final one in Create is when you can go in and add items manually based on passages or rubrics, just like we were doing when we found an item through a passage or rubric. Okay? For my teachers, we just found that it was just so much easier to do it online and schedule time in the lab to negate the extra time of printing it off, going to the copier, scanning the sheets, and then coming back, although that's not a lot of extra time or paper. So it really depends on you and how you want to use it. I had several earth and environmental teachers, like I've said, that they came in and they did their test questions where they did it by standard. They did 10 questions for every standard based on released test items and things they knew had been on the test. And the students are required to have completed all those before they take their exam, and those are their review grades. I had math that came in and they took a release test, but instead of making it multiple choice, they made them gridded responses, so that way it forced the students to actually show their math work, but then allowed SchoolNet to grade it. Now, some of the things that came up with math gridded responses: one, the gridded response cannot be in the form of a fraction. There is no diagonal line. It has to be a decimal or another type of response, although the state tests have that option. So some of the things in math got to be a little tricky, making sure they also could not give more than one answer. Say if the student gave it in the fraction or the complex and then the simplified form, you couldn't do multiple answers for the correct answer. You had to have the one, the most simplified form, for example. So it did take a little tweaking on the part of my teachers. And then, like I said, in language arts, they found that the passages and the questions did not always match up. But it is a really powerful tool that as you start working through and using it, you can find lots of uses. So good luck. I'm sure I'll do a follow-up with you all once you get started and find your own things you'd like to improve.